Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Don Mafia Live. Guys, listen, quick announcement. I just finally ended up getting my Rodecaster Duo / my Rodecaster XLR Audio Edition. All right. As many of you know, I made the investment in the Shure mic a couple of weeks ago, but I did connect it to a USB. But then I ultimately ended up switching over to the soundboard and the XLR system by itself. So honestly, have to tell me, folks, what do you think about the audio? Is it crispy? Is it good? Is it the best audio that you have heard so far? Because I have to get feedback. I'm still messing around with this thing, but from what I understood, based off of all of the tests that I have put with this Rodecaster, it sounds pretty damn good. It's always been crispy, honestly. Eric is coming in. Guys, let me know if you hear a significant difference. Because I spent a significant amount of money. I suppose it is a tax write-off, but still, I spent a significant amount of money on this overall new system. And from what I understand, this is the go-to. So let me know if you hear any significant difference from what we have been seeing for the past couple of weeks or from the beginning. So let me know if this sounds as good as humanly possible. We have Cody coming on in saying audio is good. Augustin is coming on in saying Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the game. All right, baby. We're already talking about that. Audio is sexy. Mike All already rolling on in. Lamar can do jack shit in the playoffs, and people won't roast him like they do Josh. All right, listen, I feel like everybody in here is already ready just to dive into the topic. I'm just sitting here trying to figure out if the audio sounds any better than what it was. King Keon, my boy Dan, let's go. And audio is absolutely perfect. Let me know if you have heard a significant difference, though. I think that's like my biggest question that is coming on in. No invite #sports. I'll tell you what, fool. I'll tell you what, brother. I'm going to go on ahead. I'm going to send you a DM right now, brother. Hopefully you're available. It is Christmas. I know you have off right now. So the StreamYard link right in here, my friend. Go on ahead and make this happen. My boy Mario from #sports. Listen, look at that. My boy Mario might be coming in and chopping it up with your boy right now, having some conversations, because I have a lot of questions that I need to ask. As many of you guys know, I'm just that guy that likes to crash out on the internet when the Buffalo Bills play football. You know what I mean? Like, I just punch Bob in the face every now and again, and that's all I do. All right? Sometimes I need to bring people on that are way more intelligent than myself, so I can give my audience something to be excited about. You know what I mean? It does sound better. Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope so, because this shit costs a lot of fucking money. So I am glad that ends up working out. We have Nathan is coming in. Last year, Lamar's stats didn't matter. Why does Josh matter this year? Remember, Josh has no one to throw to, and this Bills team would go 6-11 without Stephon Diggs. That indeed was the narrative. It was the narrative at the beginning of the season, and something that I feel like a lot of us need to hold close to our chest before it rocks out into it. Anybody could win in Baltimore with Henry and Andrews, and likely nobody else would win in Buffalo except for Josh Allen. I do want to give Lamar Jackson some credit. I do think that he would probably be the next best quarterback that I think could at least bring Buffalo to somewhere close to where they were this year. Anybody else, though, I could probably come up. Like, I'm terrified that people are under the impression that I am going to sit back and say that I think Lamar Jackson is a bad quarterback. I think that he's actually a very good quarterback. But this debate is basically just based off of how I think this MVP voting is going to ultimately conclude. That's kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean? It's not even close. Lamar is the MVP. Eastside is coming on in. Well, I'll tell you what, that is a fantastic segue. Because say, for example, that you are that confident, I'm going to have to point you over to the BetUS Sportsbook, ladies and gentlemen. It just also so happens to be one of the proud sponsors of today's channel. All right. And as many of you guys know, the odds have shifted after this weekend, where Josh Allen is no longer a -1,000 favorite, folks. He is now a -450, and Lamar Jackson is +325. It is a two-man race for the MVP, and I'm actually kind of curious to see where Saquon Barkley might be. He's at plus 1,400, so he is in the third place for the most valuable player award that comes on into it. But then again, listen, how this all works out, folks, is that this is ultimately going to be decided by a collection of media members that decide who is going to win this overall award. It's not who has the best stats. It's not who's on the best team. It's quite literally who these guys on ESPN and Fox Sports are going to decide who they want to pick. And that's going to be a fantastic question and something we're going to have to unpack. But guys, listen, if you are wanting to go on ahead and put some money down on this MVP race, or even some futures within the playoffs, or even week 17, week 18, highly recommend you go over to BetUS, show them a little bit of love. They are currently matching 150% of your first deposit all the way up to $2,000 as long as you use code YouTube150, and 125% of your second and your third deposit. Here are the MVP odds. Let's get into it. And my good friend Mario is here. What's going on?
You cannot call me out and I'm not going to show up.
Yeah. How did I call you out, my friend?
You're like, that's it. I'm going to send you an invite right now. I still got the thing up from last night's post game. We're ready
Bills
to roll
win 24-21, dude.
That's
and you know what? It was ugly. But how are your thoughts about this, right? Because I'm getting a lot of people in the chat that are sitting here being, oh my God, it's over. Defense blows. We're going to get first rounded.
Oh, the defense is abysmal. You're missing 3/4 of your secondary. It's bad. Milano's out. He wasn't looking very good anyway. Yeah. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You could throw out record when division rivals go against each other. I mean, you just have to do that. It's ridiculous that people are really concerned about that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is that hair? I thought it was a scarf. No, it's not a scarf. Sorry, man.
No. It's not a scarf. It's not a scarf. Folks, listen, we have our good friend Mario over here, #sports. Good friend of mine, great channel over there. And I'm glad that you came on because I made a statement. I was like, you know what? Have to entertain the people, obviously. So I always like bringing on people that are far more intelligent than myself. And I've been getting a lot of like narratives, right? Like a shit ton of narratives that we would love to hear your thoughts on. And I think the biggest one here is that this Patriots game going into it, I was saying all week, when I saw the injury report, I said, you know what? I'm seeing 7 people on the list, and I pray to the Lord that none of them play. I think that they ultimately ended up looking at that injury report, looking at the New England Patriots coming up on Sunday, and they said, you know what? This is going to be an ugly game, but we're just going to ride with it. And I think 70 to 80% of those guys probably could have played if there was more at stake, like at this point. Thoughts on that? Was this sort of the game plan going into it, that the Bills knew that this game was going to turn out like it did last night?
I think that those wheels were set in motion when they went to Detroit with 3/4 of their secondary out. And I think they were like, listen, you guys need to rest up. Obviously, we know that if you lose an NFC game, it's not going to affect your conference record if it comes down to that, if you're in a tie with somebody. So I think they were like, listen, we're going to play with this secondary in Detroit. And then we were able to win that game, albeit give up 40-some points in that, but a lot of those points were scored late. So you sit there and you go, why? We just went to Detroit with a depleted secondary and beat them, the number 1 scoring team in the NFL. Why would we be scared of the Patriots at all with the same secondary? All right, guys, Douglas, Hamlin, Rep, you guys rest up another week. Let's go. We're going to try to get this one. If we get this one, you guys can have another week off when we play New York, and everything will be fine. And everything has been fine. I mean, like, the weather played a little bit of a factor. The Patriots were kind of confusing the offense a little bit here and there. He wasn't hitting shots and this and that. I mean, I said it on the post game last night. I was like, listen, you can go into a game thinking you're going to win, but then when someone steps up and punches you in the face, you're like, oh, okay, we're doing that today. Sweet.
Entirely different.
Let's go. So,
okay. Yeah, most definitely. So, like, what were the Patriots doing last night from what you saw that completely just like sort of like threw the Bills offense off for a loop? Do you buy the whole thing where Josh Allen was just like, hey, like, we're not trying to go on ahead and show the entire playbook, or was that just something that was trying to save face for being like, oh shit, I have an MVP that I need to sort of account for? How much of that do you believe?
I don't know. To me, it was kind of similar to the Rams game when I was looking at it, but it was It was for me, Dan. It was the shoe was on the other foot. It was like
Yeah.
all those years throughout the drought where the Buffalo Bills would always be out of the playoffs. Patriots were in the playoffs, and Bills always put their best foot forward in the first half. And everyone's like, oh, this is great. We're going to beat them finally. And then they just curb stomp you in the second half. That's what it felt like for me. 14-0. I'm sitting there going, all right, they're a little rusty. They're coming out of the gate slow. This is not new. They do it all the time. You know what I mean? But it could have been one of those things. But as far as specifically what the Patriots were able to do to kind of confuse them, I think you were mixing up a lot of different coverages. I think they were throwing a lot of different things at the wall and showed their hand pretty much in the first half. And as you and I know, Dan, the Buffalo Bills, one of the best second half adjustment teams in the NFL, they were able to say, okay, when they do this and this, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And they were able to get 7. It's amazing how many teams throw so much stuff at the Bills in the first half this year, and the Bills are only down 10 or down 7 or down 3. Or they're like right in the game, and other teams playing perfect. It's like, yeah, they'll come back. They'll figure it out. You know?
Yeah.
They may have had a vanilla offense. I don't know. I think what the offense should be concerned about with going over these next 2 games is getting Amari Cooper completely comfortable with the offensive calls and all the offensive audibles.
Yeah. So that's like probably like the biggest question that I have had, right? Is that obviously we make a move for him during the trade deadline. Had a couple like of games where like he was implemented. I understand he was going through that wrist injury for a while. Like dude's been mostly a ghost, like I would say, for the past couple of weeks, like not implemented whatsoever. I'm sitting here trying to ask myself, are we just trying to like save this dude for the playoffs? Like I understand we're trying to adopt the everybody eats mentality. Is he being covered? Is he not the same Amari Cooper that he was a couple of years ago?
No, I think it is. Here's the difference you're seeing, Dan. And the fact of, think of it this way. If Stephon Diggs was on this team and the Bills put up 40 points at Detroit and he didn't have a target, what would the storyline be?
His
Amari Cooper
would be going off crazy.
Yeah, Amari Cooper did not have a target. Did you hear anything? Nothing.
No, 0.
Just his presence on the field, opening up other players is what they got. Like, okay, we can't leave him one-on-one. He's going to torch us. So we have to do something to try to neutralize Cooper, who is arguably the 3rd best weapon on that team, not production-wise. I'm talking about his presence in the offense. Yeah. If he's on the field, you have to account for him. Obviously, it's Josh Allen and James Cook in 1-2. So then you got Shakir as far as a production standpoint. So, I mean, that all being considered, you have to be like, listen, they're just trying to get him up to speed in Brady's offense and see what's going on. He's probably spent a little bit more time with Curtis Samuel now that they're, just hanging out. But I think that's what it is. I think they're trying to get Cooper already up to speed for when the playoffs come up. And then he's just happy to be out of Cleveland. I mean, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, man. Like, I'm sitting here watching a bunch of interviews being like, oh, man, it's so nice to be on a winning football team. Like, he's like said it verbatim a couple of times. Like, he seems like he's a kid in a candy shop right now, man. Like, he's just glad that he's not, just being forced in an arranged marriage with a controversial quarterback for once in his entire life. And largely, I do think that he is going to be a 1-year rental. I'm not sure if you're on the same page, but like he's never been a free agent. He's never been a free agent in his entire life, ever. Like he's been traded. No. So like when people are like, oh my God, dude, like we need to re-sign him. I'm like, dude, listen, I don't see Bean being the highest bidder. And I feel like this guy's seeing the twilight of his career down the road. He's going to go with the highest bidder. And Brandon Bean just is not going to be that guy. So we have to enjoy what we have in him right now. Maybe that's a strategy why we're not using him too much, because we're just like, oh, shit. Yeah, most definitely. We're not going to target you at all. So nobody finds any value in you.
No, they wouldn't do that. That's a funny take, but they wouldn't do that though. But Dan, for your crowd, if I may, I've been doing this since probably week 8, week 9, ever since Henry was popping off. For all those guys that want to tout, Lamar Jackson as the MVP. All I want you to do is look at Henry's stats now and look at Henry's stats back in 2020. And then you look at Ryan Tannehill's stats in 2020 compared to Lamar's now. Ryan Tannehill didn't get 1 vote. You look at how similar their stats are, it's scary. Both of them back and back. It's absolutely insane.
Please. All right.
I tweeted it a couple times. It's on there.
So you're telling me, so you're going to come in here and you're telling me that Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill's stats are completely aligned somewhat aligned from his year that he went off and he basically got like 2,000 yards on the ground.
He was the offensive player of the year. Let me just do this for you, Dan. Because I know how you love some of this stuff, and I'll give it to you right now. Here we go.
In fact, I'm making a TikTok in honor of you. Shout out to Mario from #Sports.
So in 2020, Derrick Henry, after 15 games, had 1,700 yards. Currently, he has 1,600.
Okay.
2020, he had 15 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. Right now, he has 13 touchdowns, 5.9 yards per carry. So very similar as far as he's a little bit more than 100 yards off, but he gets more yards per carry. He's not getting the ball nearly as he did in 2020. Ryan Tannehill had 3,600 yards and 37 total touchdowns. 3,600 passing yards and 37 total touchdowns. Jackson has 3,700 yards and 40 total touchdowns. Both teams are 10-5 at this point in the season. Why nobody even said one word about Ryan Tannehill getting an MVP vote? Why are we talking about Lamar Jackson getting an MVP vote? This is a guy who was the MVP last year, and they decided to, because he's the MVP, give him Derrick Henry. Like, you need help. How is he the MVP again? Figure this out for me, chat. Talk to me.
Ravens fans are in absolute shambles. We have a couple in the chat already that are probably fuming at this overall take. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the stats, okay, in 2023. And you're correct, all right? 3,063 complete. Wow. Okay, 64.3. Wow. All right. Yeah, most definitely. We're going to be unpacking all of this.
It's very close. Very close.
It's crazy. It's close to brain rot, like to a point, like where people are just like, oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Like Lamar's going absolutely off, and Derrick Henry is playing no factor into his success in the pass game this year. I'm like, you have to be completely out of your mind if you think that Derrick Henry's presence alone is not opening up all of these opportunities for him.
Did you see Lamar Jackson threw 3 touchdowns yesterday? You know, they talk about Allen stat padding the 1-yard touchdowns that he gets.
Oh my God. Fucking TD and Richie were killing me with that the other day.
Did you know? Fun fact. Lamar's passing touchdowns. You know what the distances were for those? 7, 9, and 14.
7,
9, and 14 yards were his touchdowns. Are you kidding me?
7, 9, and 14. Like, you were the one that actually put out. So you were the first one, I think, that actually put it out on X, like week 3 or week 4, where like you were like, Josh Allen is playing so good that Lamar Jackson just won his 3rd MVP.
Yeah.
Like,
I look at it this way, Dan. When you talk about most valuable player to me, and I don't know if anybody in the chat agrees with this. If you don't, that's fine. I'm thinking of who's the number one guy we need to stop when we play this team. And I think for 15 weeks, it's been Josh Allen. For the Ravens, I don't think for 15 straight weeks it's been Lamar. I think a few weeks it's been Henry. So how could he be your most valuable player if at times you're not looking to stop him? You're looking to say, all right, let Lamar beat us. We have to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Yeah. No.
Eric,
like,
what's wrong with 7, 9, and 14 is the fact.
Man.
Yeah. No, I was just talking to Eric in the chat. He said, what's wrong with 7, 9, and 14? I go, you talk about these 1-yard runs from Allen. They're like 15, 20, and apparently you missed a Kansas City game. So that's fine.
Yeah. Most definitely. So here's what I said today. I said, you know what? So is Lamar Jackson beating the Kansas City Chiefs? No. Is he undefeated in his division? Absolutely not. I think that if they are going to hurt Allen, all right, like for his interceptions last year, that was the reason. Although that he had like 14 more total touchdowns than him, 700, 800 more passing yards last year, and you give it to Lamar Jackson, you better hurt him this year for losing to the pedestrian Las Vegas Raiders and the pedestrian Cleveland Browns at the exact same time. If he ultimately comes out on top and wins this award, then I'm just giving up all hope that this guy ends up raising the trophy in the first place. But I still think that Josh ended up solidifying this, even going far back as the Kansas City Chiefs game. I think even if he had like an average performance against the Detroit Lions, I still think that he would have got the nod. But the Lions win a couple of weeks ago is just like, okay, this is that guy. And people always want to forget that we were getting all of this all off season trying to tell us, oh yeah, Diggs is gone, Gabe Davis is gone. Although the Gabe Davis has like 2 games that are featured on his highlight reels on YouTube, just fucking 2 games. People were like, oh, Gabe Davis is gone. Oh my God. And they said that we were going to be absolutely nothing. So the fact that we are now 12-3 moving forward as a well-oiled machine, I feel like it's got to be his award. And we're going to be the ones laughing once his name is called on that stage right before the Super Bowl.
Well, he won't be there.
Oh, he won't. Yeah, you're right.
He won't be at the NFL honors if they're in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's the night before. So hopefully he's not. But I mean, here's the irony in all of this, Dan. I don't think Allen gives two whats about the award. Really? I think he would like personally to win it. He'll say to his close circle, it'd be nice to win it. I think I'm the best player in the NFL right now, or something like that. But publicly, I don't think he'll ever acknowledge, okay, cool. He'll use that as fuel, just like he has his whole career of being overlooked. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what he'll do. And then, people will go over this, that, and the third. But, I've always been of the camp, wins are not a quarterback stat.
Yes.
I mean, I'll tell you this. Tua Tagovailoa played a phenomenal game against the Bills in his second game against the Bills. He was not the reason the Dolphins lost that game. He just got outplayed by a guy on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been on him. But that point being is that's what people look at. They look at statistics and they're going to be like, oh, Lamar this, Lamar that. 3 times. No, they're going to look at wins. I'm sorry. 3 times in the past 15 years, it did not go to the quarterback who had the best record. 3 times. It was Mahomes' 50 touchdowns. It was actually 2020 when Aaron Rodgers had 48 touchdowns to 5 picks. And the third time it went to when Adrian Peterson had 2,000 yards rushing. It was only 3 times in the past 15 years the award didn't go to the quarterback who had the team with the best record. So it could go to Jared Goff. Like,
yeah,
who the hell knows?
Yeah, exactly. It has to be Jared Goff, if anything, especially if we're going with that overall mentality. But
yeah,
so the playoffs are right around the corner, Mario. And I've been having this conversation, and like some people like try to tell me like, oh, Dan, like we should like not be afraid of anybody in the playoffs. Like we should, welcome whatever comes to our front door. And I'm like, oh, okay. What's your number on the roster, my friend? How was practice today? All right. So I'm asking you, like, I feel like all of us, or at least most serious Bills fans, have already accepted the fact that we are getting the 2nd seed.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
100%.
barring some
You'll know Wednesday.
Some miracle that Pittsburgh wins on Christmas Day and the Broncos go out there and like shoot out a perfect game and beat the Kansas City Chiefs for the last game of the season. Yeah. Is there like a ideal path for you for the AFC Championship or on the road as far as potential opponents for us? And is there any team that you would like to avoid if possible?
At all costs. Well, here's the tough part. The 2 teams you would love to see beat each other up, unfortunately, gives you the team that I don't want to play at all. Okay. I don't know. It's weird. I don't want to see the Steelers at any capacity. Because defense travels everywhere, and their defense is terrifying. And if you want to talk about the strength of the Buffalo Bills, it is not their defense. It is that Allen can at times take over games. However, you have a guy in Watt who could catch him wherever he goes, and he's terrifying. Yeah. But that defense overall, they travel, they do well. I know last year was Allen tore him up, but I don't think Watt was even in that game last year. Now I think about it in the playoff game. But I don't want to see Pittsburgh at all. Any other team you want to give the Buffalo Bills, that's fine. You want to try to maneuver any kind of scenario that has Kansas City and Baltimore taking care of each other. Yeah, which would be fine. But unless the Buffalo Bills run defense tightens up somehow, or they do something about it, it doesn't matter what road you take. You're going to have one game at home, and hopefully that's not the only game you have. So, okay. Who are you terrified of them playing in the playoffs? Like, who's the team you're most scared about?
So I find that interesting, man. I just don't think that we were built to go up against a lot of the teams within the AFC North. So they just play like super physical ball, right? And then obviously we do remember that ass beating from the Baltimore Ravens earlier in the season. But you do bring up an interesting point. Whereas would I rather welcome a team that we are already familiar with that we have already played at the beginning of the season in Buffalo, where it's likely going to be like 3 degrees outside, I think we automatically have that home field advantage.
Yeah.
Or would I rather end up welcoming a team that we haven't played at all this year, that we have no experience from, that we have no idea what we are going to anticipate? I feel like it was the Ravens, like one team that I kind of wanted to avoid just based off of history.
Yeah.
But I feel like you bring up an interesting point. So when it comes into the Steelers, and funny enough, like I've been playing around with this ESPN playoff machine for days.
Oh, those are
If
fun.
the Steelers lose out, say that the Steelers lose out and Baltimore ends up winning out, then Baltimore and Pittsburgh, they play each other for the first round in the wild card.
That's
So
phenomenal.
I would love that. And I could potentially see the Pittsburgh Steelers actually getting it back, because let's not forget that Pittsburgh was without Pickens last Saturday, and then also about 2 or 3 defensive players. And Watt was definitely not at 100%
No.
playing that Baltimore Ravens team. So that would almost be a dream, and to be completely honest with you. So I'd say Baltimore, but like now, like you've kind of like planted something in my head where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like I would be fine if Pittsburgh were to go ahead and take care of Baltimore in the first round of the wild card, and then Kansas City has to play Pittsburgh afterwards,
Yeah.
and then we end up playing whoever like else is left at that point.
Yeah. You either have home game or you're going to Arrowhead, which is fine. I don't mind going to Arrowhead. I think it was the 2020 or 2021 Steelers that started off 11-0. And
Oh my God, shit
they were
team, dude.
They were the softest team I think I've ever, like, they were just smoke and mirrors. And I think a lot about the Kansas City team this year. I think that's what they are. They're smoke and mirrors this year.
Yeah.
I think that they're on borrowed time. You could go back and look at 5 games that if one play is changed in all of those games, you can't say that about a lot of games. If you say 5 plays and those games were changed, they're less than 500.
Yeah.
Or not less than 500. They have significantly more losses. But here's the thing. I want to ask you this, and I want to ask the chap this. Christmas Day, Kansas City and Houston win. You are guaranteed the 2nd seed. If Houston beats Baltimore and Kansas City wins against, I can't remember who they're playing. Doesn't matter. Steelers. Okay. Because then the Steelers will lose and then Baltimore will lose. The only 2 guys that were on your tail. You're guaranteed the 2nd seed. Do you start Mitch Trubisky against the Jets?
Start Mitch Trubisky against the Jets. All right, listen, I love the narrative, like right here, where like, first off, don't sleep on Mitchy Biscuits, because I think that he can beat the Jets based off of how they have played this year. I wouldn't even necessarily count the Bills out as an L going into it. But like, here's my thing. I think that we are going to get the 2nd seed. And I think week 18 is ultimately going to be our bye week, where nobody sees the field. That's going to be the Mitchy Biscuits, like, absolute situation. I feel fine with our starters taking a week off, but I'm not so sure how I feel about our starters taking 2 weeks off, especially against a Denver Broncos defense, which I'm assuming is going to be who we play, barring some miracle, some miracle that they end up dropping. I'm seeing a lot of people say, oh my God, what about Cincinnati? Like, they literally, it's Broncos, Colts, Dolphins, and then Cincinnati as far as most likelihood for the 7th seed. Like, Cincinnati is so far below. So many things need to happen. So, short answer, I'm not sure how comfortable I would be with our starters taking 2 weeks off, if that makes sense.
I only asked that, and I only proposed that to you because I think that's kind of what the Bills had in mind with the last 4 games being Detroit and then 3 divisional games that aren't, you already have it locked up. You already have the division locked up.
Yeah.
So you rest Douglas, Hamlin, and Rapp against Detroit, and then you rest them again. Was that their 2 weeks? Are they coming back against the Jets, and then 3 other guys end up just taking their rest, and then 3 other guys take a rest against the Patriots in the final week of the season? Like, I'm wondering if, because usually coaches like to keep everybody on a schedule. I mean, you want to keep them with the pattern that goes on, this and that. But I think that was already put into play, where he's like, we have our playoff spot locked up. Let's try a few things here and there. Showing their hand with that shift play with Cooking as the Wildcat, I thought was interesting. I wouldn't have showed that yet. But it's interesting to see, okay, if you see Douglas, Hamlin, and Rapp all come back against the Jets, and then three
Yeah.
other guys are out, it's gonna be like,
Yeah.
what's going on
So
here, guys?
so funny things, right? Because like you're listing all of these names, and there's so many narratives that I've been seeing this past week. I'm not sure about you, but like I've been seeing quite a few people say, damn, Matt Milano's terrible. Like our defense has been absolute ass since he has been back. He's not the same. We should be putting Dorian Williams out there. I am under the impression I like Dorian Williams. I just don't like him in coverage. All right. I like him in
Gotcha.
run defense.
Okay.
However, I think that the ceiling, as far as Matt Milano, he's coming off of like not practically playing football for 2 years. He's coming back. And I think we also noticed that our defense looked absolutely abysmal once he got hurt during Detroit, during that fourth quarter or right beforehand. What are your thoughts on Matt Milano? Are you buying into that we have seen the last of quality linebacker play from Matt Milano? Or is there more that people aren't necessarily seeing with the eye test?
I unfortunately have been on the train of you got a 30-year-old linebacker who's been through a bevy of injuries, hasn't played in a year. If anything, it's rust. But the problem is in Buffalo, we tend to deify all these guys when they're out. Oh, remember how good he was? Oh, all pro Milano. You know what I mean? He's got to come back. He's not that all pro 28-year-old, 27-year-old player anymore. He's 30. Yeah. He's had a bunch of injuries. He's rusty as hell out there. He's not in game shape. He looks phenomenal, but he's not in game shape. And we have to remember this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. When Matt Milano was on the field as an all-pro, he was an all-pro coverage linebacker. He was not stuffing the B gap and stopping runs. If the run wanted to go to the sideline, he stopped it. If it was going into the A gap, he got so damn sticky on those guards in there, Dan. It was ridiculous. And people think, because it's been 400 days since he played when he first came back, oh, this guy's a game wrecker. He's Fred Warner. He's this. No, he's not. He can cover tight ends all day. He's great.
Yeah.
You know what? But you're right about Williams. I don't know why you decided to go from Matt Milano not playing at all for almost 2 years, like you said, to playing 85, 90% of the snaps and not just having a small package in there for him on like third downs or something. Like do something like that. Get him used to, because Dorian Williams earned that spot. The dude had over 100 tackles. He was playing lights out on some of those games. He was lost in some of those games too. I'll admit it. But the kid earned the right to play. Yeah. And you took it away from him. He was playing like 20% of the snaps in the last 3 games. Like, come on. Come on, dude.
Yeah. So you were on the Dorian Williams train, Matt Milano. You have to earn your stripes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I
mean, he may never be an all-pro again, honestly.
Yeah. No, yeah, most definitely, man. Like 2 absolutely devastating injuries going into it.
Yeah.
In fact, I do think that he's going to be a cap casualty this offseason. That's something that I've been thinking about. I've been looking at his contract, and I was just like, kind of
comparing it to Dorian's.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, like maybe we could teach him how to cover. You know what I mean? Next thing, okay. Are we bought out officially on Kyer Elam? All right. Because I'm not sure if you saw, but I purchased this dummy. And I've been beating the shit out of it. Yeah. And so I've been beating the shit out of it, like when the Bills piss me off or like when the refs make a bad call.
Yes.
And Bob over here got some ass beatings at least 3 times on behalf of Kyer Elam last night. I'm still seeing people being Kyer Elam believers in here, but I'm not sure about you. I'm done with Kyer Elam. I am absolutely done with the guy. I feel like we drafted him. I feel like Brandon Beane ended up making one of the very rare decisions where he just panic-picked Kyer Elam during that draft because Trent McDuffie was taken. And he took a position, and he took somebody that doesn't fit into the McDermott mold. They tried to make him something that he is not. I'm still convinced that we tried to trade him during the deadline. Maybe even in the offseason, there was no interest. But I still think people are holding on to hope that this dude, if Rasul Douglas does not come back, that he's going to be our CB2. I don't think this coaching staff wants him on the roster, and I think that he's a liability when he's on the defense by itself. He's way too grabby. Like, take a page out of Sauce Gardner's book and learn how to get away with PIs, for the love of God. Go ahead. Go off on Kyer, please.
You want to talk about a guy who, okay, all right. I'll try to give the chat and everybody a history lesson on why he was drafted, why he was taken, all this other stuff. And I understand that. Dan, you know as well as I do, there are those premium positions in the NFL that sometimes you just can't pay. You have your left tackle, your quarterback, defensive end, corner. He was one of those premium positions that the Buffalo Bills needed to fill, and they weren't able to fill in free agency, so they have to draft that. Okay, we understand that. They take Kyer Elam, who is a primary SEC man corner. Okay, cool, great. Maybe the Bills are going to blitz more. Maybe they're going to change their philosophies a little bit. You take a first-round corner. I think personally, McDermott was trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice, because Trey White in 2017 was the fourth corner taken off the board. What was Kyer Elam? The fourth corner taken off the board. And I think they tried to catch lightning in a bottle again to draft a premium position that they wouldn't have to pay in free agency so they can delegate their finances elsewhere. He has not worked out. And you know what? If I was his agent, I would have been like, hey, Rasul's out. I'm in against the number one scoring defense in the NFL. Very tall task for the kid. We understand that's not where you want to go in, but you're effectively auditioning for the rest of the NFL because the Bills didn't pick up your fifth-year option. You're auditioning for the rest of the NFL, and you play like that over those 2 weeks. You're making it easy for some team to take you at like league minimum.
Done. That,
along with Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace production as they've left the team. That's if the Bills want to get rid of a corner, the word is now for the NFL, don't touch him. They're not going to be good. So that's why no one really wanted to trade for Elam in that respect.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude. It's just to a point, like, he's way too handsy. He's always calling the understand that, like, he's had a couple games where he picked off Patrick Mahomes, like, where he was called for a PI or something like that. Like that is who Kyer Elam is at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, especially Bills Mafia, always loves finding an enemy, right? And they love to go on ahead and pile on to a guy. But then ultimately, you like to see these players end up redeeming themselves. Like recently, it's been Rasul Douglas. He's been public enemy number one since that Rams game. But that's the first one where, like, I've like watched the game and I was like, okay, Rasul's a liability. Like, one of the first ones. A lot of people hated Ed Oliver until that Detroit Lions game. And now it's Kyer Elam. But I feel like that the hate for Kyer Elam is actually something I agree with. It's one of the few that I'm like, okay, there's not more to the story. This guy's gonna fuck us in the playoffs.
It's weird because one of the things that you think that he was good at coming out of college is playing man coverage, and he totally dropped the ball on all of that.
Yeah.
So it was just tough to see. I don't wish ill will on the kid, but obviously in a pressure situation that you have, he's your special down. He's your special teams guy now. He's your special teams guy. That's all it is.
Special teams guy, man, and that's really where it is. Well, hey, man, it's one of the plans for the holidays, man.
I am getting the Minions tomorrow for Christmas Eve, and good old Mario Claus is going to be, doling out gifts for the kiddos. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to go sledding and all that good stuff. You're enjoying the sun and fun down in Florida. I know that.
So surprisingly enough, man, like, I'm basically in southern Alabama. It's like right in the panhandle. It's still cold as shit down here, dude. Last night was like 38 degrees. And I know that's nothing from like back home, right? Like, that's absolutely nothing. All right. But for me, especially being so right within the South for, I'd say, like past like 10, 12 years, it's chilly down here. It's definitely not southern Miami or anything like that, or like South Florida, but it's still pretty brisk out here. You know what I mean?
Nice. Well, I hope you enjoy your Christmas and your holidays, and all the Dan Mafia, the Don Mafia enjoys themselves as well. You guys in the chat, thanks for welcoming me in tonight, guys.
Yeah, man, most definitely. I definitely appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in on today's edition And so I need to hop onto the AFC's roundtable. It's just me and TD Finstock tonight, so that's going to be a fucking headache. Merry Christmas to me. But guys, listen, I went on ahead and I actually pinned hashtag sports YouTube channel at the top of this chat. Mario is a good friend of mine. All right. We have been collabing for years, and I highly recommend that you go on ahead and you check out the content that they're putting over there on hashtag sports. Go subscribe to my guy, Mario. It's Merry Christmas, my dude. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Take it easy,
Cheers.
brother. Thank you.